The minigun is considered by many to be the worst of Fallout 4's heavy guns, and for good reason. At a meager 8 base damage per shot, this ammo guzzler isn't exactly winning any awards when weapons like the Gatling laser and spray and pray are readily available. But what if you were in a situation where you had to use only the minigun to progress? Could you beat the game? That's what I aim to find out today as I pose the question, can you beat Fallout 4 with only a minigun? A couple of ground rules going into the run. I will be playing on normal difficulty, and I can only use the minigun or legendary variants of the weapon that I happen to find. Gun bashing is allowed, but I will not be using the shredder attachment for the minigun. In my mind, that transforms the minigun into a different weapon, and I want to see if I can keep things simple this time around. I will also be avoiding the use of any glitches or exploits. With all that being said, let's begin. I go with the default face for Nate for the sake of time, and immediately go to staring at the door until the Vault-Tec rep comes knocking and I get to assigning my special stats. I name myself Minigun Mark for no particular reason, and get to the rest of the pre-war segment. When New York and Pennsylvania are destroyed, I sprint to the vault where I glimpse my future self for a moment before heading underground to chill out for a couple hundred years. I wake up just long enough to witness the murder of my wife and the abduction of my child by a con man, and am put back on ice. Given that there are no miniguns in the vault, I opt to use the doors and make sure the radroaches continue living. I may have immediately forgotten about the challenge and punched a radroach to death. Whoops. Realizing the error of my ways, I reloaded and just locked the roaches behind the sliding doors of the vault before taking the Pip-Boy and returning to the surface. Now out in the open world, I waited for the Creation Club quest to start before making my way to Concord to acquire my new best friend. I ignore Preston's cries for help and use the nearby church to jump to the crashed vertibird to retrieve my weapon. It turns out, however, that you need 8 strength to tear the minigun from its mount, so I thought about going inside the museum to acquire a fusion core, when curiosity struck and I hopped in the unpowered suit of power armor nearby. It turns out, you don't need a fusion core to benefit from the power armor's strength boost, so I ripped the minigun off of the aircraft, ditched the lead suit, jumped back across to the church and head down to the street to turn the local ruffians into Swiss cheese. After clearing the raiders outside, I am offended that Preston doesn't recognize my actions, and so I go inside the museum to give him a piece of my mind. Inside the museum, I turn more raiders to mulch, level up, and take the heavy gunner perk to add a single point of damage to each shot of the minigun. I'm on board with Sturgis's suggestion to use the minigun to clear the way, and so I head downstairs to get better acquainted with the locals. It seems the gang had more pressing concerns, however, so I politely waited for them in the Deathclaw to hash things out. Once the raiders are dealt with, I swoop in and steal the victory, gaining a level in the process and taking better criticals. It was at this point that I realized that dumping agility was a very bad idea due to the weapon's high action cost and VATS, which I would be using for the sake of ammo efficiency going forward. I greeted and then dismissed Dogmeat on the way back to Sanctuary, in one part due to Dog not being minigun, and the other part due to not wanting to trip over him in combat. He then takes out his frustration on the local mole rats while I slip away. Returning to Sanctuary, I looked for some worthwhile supplies, ignored Codsworth because while he is a killing machine, he is also not a minigun. My own killing machine gets a new paint job and an appropriate name before I meet up with Preston and the gang once more. Now released from the early game quests, I took some time to think about the future, how I would get my hands on more ammo, and which faction I would take to the end of the main story. In the end, I decided that settlement quests were going to be a waste of both ammo and time, so no Minutemen. The Railroad won't supply the ammo that I need, minus whatever I can swipe off of Glory's corpse, and the Institute is far too focused on lasers for me to be able to relate to them. In my mind, that leaves only one faction, the Brotherhood of Steel. With my mind made up, I made a quick trip to Satellite Station Olivia to get more juice for my gun, before I make the trip to the police station to cozy up with Dancing Company. To my surprise, ACAC's crew had a lot more 5mm ammo than I could have hoped for, and I ended up leaving the satellite station with just over 2,000 rounds to my name. Getting further distracted on the way to Cambridge, I stopped off in Lexington to take a page out of Moira Brown's book and go grocery shopping. While I didn't find any worthwhile loot at the local Super Duper Mart, I did end up leaving with some good reading material and the knowledge of how to find more bullets when I'm out scavenging. Now that all of my distractions were out of the way, I finally made my way down to the police station to introduce the ghouls there to the concept of superior firepower. Once Dance and I shred the feral ghouls, he asks me to tag along and show off my gun at the family reunion. Naturally, I accept. While fighting some wild dogs along the way, I found out that being hit with melee attacks forces you to have to spin up the minigun again. Bit awkward, but not something that I can't manage. When clearing Arcjet, I opt not to fry Dance, as I don't fancy his chances of surviving without his helmet. The Brotherhood of Steel believes in protecting and understanding technology. To that end, I hit up Grey Garden on the way back to the police station to assist the robots with their water problem. Before I actually do that, however, I pick up the Radiant Quest from Reese and Halen after being inducted into the Cult of Big Guns and Big Armor. Walking into the water treatment plant with a minigun and a bad attitude ended up with me being put in my place by a missile at point blank. On my second try, I attempt to run past them and catch a missile in the back instead. On my third attempt, I sneak around the side and rush the door. Surprisingly, only the explosive mutant is brave enough to follow me inside, where I have the most tense duel of the run thus far as I try not to pop the nuclear balloon that he's holding in his hand. Clearing the water treatment plant left me with far fewer rounds than I would have liked, so I contemplated my options while clearing the college square for Reese. When I left the square, I had a paltry 3 rounds to my name. It was at this point that I realized a few things. One, that I was not going to be able to buy all the ammo that I needed, nor could I loot enough to break even. Instead of turning over every other rock in the Commonwealth looking for the elusive fuel for my minigun, I turned to the greatest invention in history, the ammo press. Now you can see why I needed to cozy up to the Abernathys and the robots in Grey Garden. Minigun ammo can be crafted using steel and fertilizer. Steel should be easy enough to come by, but fertilizer is best bought in bulk from certain vendors, namely Connie Abernathy and Supervisor Green. I did some resource gathering off camera, like a good Minecrafter, and set up my new manufacturing empire at the Red Rocket truck stop. At the end of that manufacturing session, I am sitting at a comfortable 1,200 rounds. With more bullets on hand, I took on the mission to find the recon team for some extra experience. Along the way, I leveled up and took the second rank of Heavy Gunner. At the satellite array, I made the mistake of trying to read Super Mutant's tattoo. Naturally, he exploded when I got close enough. On my third attempt, I abused the power of drugs to run in, grab the holotape, and bolt out of there while being chased into bloatflies, mirelurks, a Mr. Gutsy, the Forged, and nearly into the loving arms of a Yaogwai. Returning to the police station, I level up again and decide now is the perfect time to get a jump on the main quest. The trek to Diamond City was mostly uneventful. I picked up some reading material from Deadeye, perforated some of his brothers, and listened to Piper negotiating with the door. To get ahead of the game, I went up to the mayor's office and acquired Kellogg's key. Arturo insists that he has something for everyone, and he isn't technically wrong. He has a whole 3 rounds of 5mm ammo on offer. Naturally, I'm insulted by this, so I go take my frustrations to Ellie, and she gives me the location of Nick Valentine. On the way out of town, I stop to deal with a noise complaint and help the local drug dealer. Leaving Diamond City, I hit up the local ex-raider for ammo. She was apparently offended that I interrupted her bath and refused to sell me any minigun ammo. Dejected, but not discouraged, I ventured toward the library to get the intelligence bobblehead for some extra crumbs of XP. To add to my growing list of crimes, I impersonate a public official to get into the library outside of business hours so that I can watch the unscheduled robot versus mutant match. I'm now a bit desperate for ammo, so I decided to go to the church and ask God for guidance. He responded by sending a super mutant armed with a minigun to answer my prayer. With 600 more rounds to my name, I improved my faith by learning how to more efficiently exterminate super mutants. Neat. I level up again and take the critical banker perk before bypassing Park Street Station and checking in with Cleo and Goodneighbor to see if she can fulfill my ammo needs. Naturally, I also turn Finn to Swiss cheese on the way in. Disappointed by my finds, I hit up the Abernathys and robots again for some more fertilizer and spent some time crafting more ammo. The triggermen outside of the vault gave me a run for my money, as they are able to shoot me from multiple directions while I have to take cover to recover my action points. Park Street Station, more than any other location thus far, has made me appreciate the value of VATS for this weapon, and I'll be using my iron sights less and less, instead leaning on the power of the Matrix to keep combat efficient. Slaughtering the triggermen is inconsistent, as the amount of HP that they have varies quite wildly. I thought about talking Skinny Malone down, but my trigger finger had gotten the better of me, and I turned him and his posse into mulch. I sent Nick back to Diamond City ahead of me, sat through his interview, stole Kellogg's stuff, and set about tracking our resident revolver enthusiast across western Boston. I fast-traveled to the water treatment plant, ignored the current residents, and then made my way towards Fort Hagen. Scrapping the toasters inside is easy enough, though I did sprint through the first floor to save ammo. Once I made it to Kellogg himself, he got a face full of crit, as I did not even bother trying to talk to him. From there, I watch as the Brotherhood reinforcements arrive and make a mad dash to link up with Paladin Dance to get a first-class flight up to the Pridwin. On board the Pridwin, I attend the debriefing, write this part of the script while Maxon conducts his long speech, and finally meet the MVP of this run, Proctor Teagan. On first meeting, the man has over 1,000 rounds for my minigun on hand. Naturally, I purchase as much as I can afford and bid him a wonderful day before meeting up with Elder Maxon to take on Fort Strong. I eagerly board the Vertibird and get cozy with my infinite ammo minigun while I shower the super mutants with hot lead from the air until the pilot decides that I've had too much fun and throws me out. Wiping out the mutants at Fort Strong went well, thanks to the power of Psycho and the Nuka-Cola Quantums that I've had sitting in my back pocket for the last 2 hours. Dance congratulates me on a job well done, I report back to Maxon, and remember that Nick Valentine is supposed to be part of the plot, so I head back, talk to him, and walk through Kellogg's memories that really should have been a cutscene. On a positive note, I'm through the memories 10% faster this time thanks to the Sprinter's leg armor that I found on a dead mutant inside Fort Strong. From here I make my way towards the glowing sea. I don't bother resupplying before heading in, as there are no mandatory combat encounters here. On my way south from Diamond City, I also ran into Fred O'Connell. This wouldn't be strange, except that I saw the man's corpse outside of Covenant when I was on my way to the National Guard training area earlier for the Brotherhood. The jog through the radiation zone was mostly uneventful. I bypassed the crater of Adam and instead went the long way south to mark Sentinel Site Prescott on the map before making my way towards Virgil's cave. The Deathclaw outside and I had a bit of a stare down. When he finally got fed up, he attacked me. Like in Conquered, I whipped out the minigun, and thanks to the power of both Corvega and crits, I was able to win the fight in only a matter of seconds. It felt good to destroy something that gave me so much trouble back at the beginning of the game. After a quick chat with Virgil, I set about getting rid of the Courser. Having played this game before, I know he's at Green Tech Genetics and not at the CIT Ruins. As an extra bit of insurance, I also bribed Mama Murphy with some mentats to give me the Courser's reset code, just on the off chance that I ran out of ammo on the climb up the building. With that little tidbit of knowledge in my back pocket, it's off to Cambridge to deal with an advanced toaster. After being exploded a few times, I came to the conclusion that following the Courser too closely is actually bad for your health. To avoid being blown up again, I took it slow and gunned down the gunners so as not to become collateral damage. I ran out of ammo near the top of the tower, but thanks to the power of mentats, I was able to get the Courser's reset code from Mama Murphy earlier, and managed to complete the quest without killing anybody important. With the chip in hand, my next stop was to consult God for answers. In his infinite wisdom, he revealed the presence of the railroad beneath the Old North Church. Being without a way to kill them for now, I begrudgingly asked for their aid in decoding the Courser chip. After zoning out, listening to Tom, and imagining turning the crypt into a graveyard, I take the data to Virgil and return to the Prydwen with the schematics to build a teleporter. With the interceptor complete, Maxon asks me to play on my nostalgia for a little bit and recruit Dr. Lee. Inside the Institute, I do my damnedest not to gun down Father the instant I see him, but set about recruiting Dr. Lee to the cause. I lack the charisma to convince her outright, so I agree to investigate Virgil's old lab. The assault run inside the lab is prepared for me, and as a result, I die. In a panic, I scrounge for as much XP as I can get, and just about hit level 19 while being chased, and take the robotics expert to put the Assaultron into sleep mode before proceeding into Virgil's lab proper. I gave the holotape to Dr. Lee, another one to Ingram, and then finally returned to Virgil to give him the serum that he requested. With Dr. Lee now on board, I set out to find a magnet for Liberty Prime. Luckily, Trudy had one for sale within my limited price range, so I bought it and took it back to the airport. As thanks, Ingram sends me out to get irradiated again. Having marked it earlier on the map, I ignore Halen and travel directly to the Sentinel site to pick up some nukes. Inside the Sentinel site, I come across the greatest weapon to grace my hands: an explosive minigun. Naturally, being a minigun and therefore valid for the run, I take it and put it to work. This is where the fun begins. Or at least it would if the Children of Adam hadn't barricaded the door to the last room. Disappointed that I cannot skip dealing with Halen, I make my way back to the Brotherhood waypoint to pick up the homing beacon. Back in the site, the magic of quest progression has removed the shelves blocking the doorway, and I can give the Children of Adam a taste of what he's guarding. With the nukes marked for pickup, I return to the airport, briefly wonder if I've actually left the glowing sea, and report to Proctor Ingram. With all his parts finally installed, I wake up Liberty Prime and bask in the patriotism while he boots up. Ingram congratulates me, Maxon berates me, and I feel conflicted as I go off to sort out the issue with Dance. Trekking back across the Northern Commonwealth, I witnessed an alien drunk driving, got experience for taking a step, and dodged some bugs. Inside the bunker, I don't give Dance the time of day and gun him down immediately for making me walk this far. For my blind loyalty and for betraying Halen's trust, I am awarded a promotion, a set of power armor that I will never use, and am told to go eliminate the railroad. I walked in, held the trigger, stole their supplies and robot, and left to go find Prime's keys. For the first time in the entire run, I think I left there with more ammo than I started with. On to mass fusion, and I am once again given a vertibird with a minigun and told to lay waste to the synths on the rooftop. The elevator ride this time around is a little bit more tense, if only because I nearly blew myself up on the way down. Securing the agitator and dismantling the robots was easy work, and before I knew it, I was taking Liberty Prime sightseeing down the Charles River. As if it were a flashback to Fallout 3, the Enclave showed up for a moment to try and get a rematch. It went poorly, and we continued on to the CIT ruins. During the sweep of the Institute, I destroyed an inactive sentry bot and got 1,000 minigun rounds for my efforts, meaning that I can essentially become a one-man army while brushing aside man and machine alike. Leaving the Robo-Boy to die in the blast, I teleport to the detonation site, press the button, ending the game, and proving that yes, you can beat Fallout 4 with only a minigun. This was a fun run. I started off a little bit slow with the lack of a reliable source of ammo, but the pace picked up once the Brotherhood arrived, and the last section was trivially easy after getting the explosive minigun. While the minigun is considered to be one of the worst heavy weapons in the game, I can say for certain that there was never a time where I didn't have fun holding down the trigger and letting the bullets fly. If you like this challenge run and would like to see more like it in the future, consider liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. I've got more challenges like this one in the works, and we'll try to have them out on a regular basis. If you have an idea for a challenge run of your own, drop it in the comment section down below. This has been Eric Uno, and I hope to see you in the next video.